Hey, this is Brian Hatch, CEO and founder of Automate Big, and today we are going through another episode of Marketing Runs Deep. I'm excited about this topic that we're going to talk about, and it comes up quite often when I'm working with a lot of business owners out there that have some type of a problem, and we're just going to dive right into it. There is a difference between you and the guru. And when I say guru, I'm talking about the expert, the person that's been in the business for a long time, maybe your biggest competitor, someone that's like the forefront or the standout number one leader in your industry, and you're trying to take them over or have your piece of the pie, whatever it is. And so when you look at the guru, there's definitely differences between you and them. And we're going to jump right into how those make a difference in your business, how you can focus on the right things, and how you can actually make up for the differences that there are and still get ahead yourself in your business. So number one thing to look at when you're looking at the difference between you and the guru is eyeballs. Now, I'm not saying that the guru has 10 eyeballs and you have 2. I'm saying that the eyeballs that are looking at their pages, right? The people that are actually looking at what they're doing is a vast difference between most businesses, right? Now, I'm not here to say that you might not be the next best in the field. You might have a competitor that has 6 million followers and you have 5 million followers. Great. Or maybe you have 50,000 followers or 100,000 followers and your competitors have 200. Whatever it is, there's still a difference between you and them, and obviously you know it's the number of eyeballs. But here's the thing that you got to realize in that regard, is that if you're doing the same things that they are doing, it might not work for you. Because here's the thing, when you can afford to make them kind of miss the mark because you have millions of followers that are actually going to look at what you do, you can still make a pretty awesome promotion, right? Now, I've worked on the teams, worked behind the scenes, and had many clients that are of these high echelon gurus that are working hard. I say nothing to the fact that they are working diligently with their teams to get ahead, but at the same token, the problems they're working on aren't the same problems you're working on. They have scale problems that you might not have as many followers. So I want you to think about that, is when there is a difference, if you copy their page word for word and put it on yours, and not plagiarize, but basically copy what they're doing and put it in yours and go, you might have some difficulty. We've actually had clients that wanted to do it just like these guys. We did it just like these guys and fell on our face. So I wouldn't recommend that you do that because, again, when you have millions of eyeballs, you can kind of make a couple mistakes here or there or work on your branding in comparison to some of the tactics you should be using in your marketing and still get ahead. Whereas you that maybe is a little smaller or doesn't have as many followers, you can't afford to make those same choices, right? And sometimes they're just, a choice between this or that. But that's the number one thing that obviously there's difference in how many people are looking at them, but then how you operate because of that makes a difference. Now, number 2, the thing that you have to understand between the difference between you and the guru is experience. I have worked with many of these guys, and I'm telling you, there's not a single one of them that didn't have a backstory. You might have heard about them recently or thought, wow, I didn't know this guy existed a year ago. And you feel like you're on the forefront or you were one of their early followers. But I promise you there was years in the backstory that they were working on and working to get to the point where they are, okay? Nobody is overnight success, and if they are, they're not a long-term success. Because sometimes there's good things that happen, and even some of these gurus that are out there, they might have had a really good promotion work out really well for them in a given month. And then that perpetuated their success long-term because then they did the right things, right? So I'm not saying you can't have quick success, but I'm saying long-term and guru status and mastery status takes a long time. And so that experience can only come from effort and energy. And so what I want you to know is how you need to operate with that bullet point is you need to become consistent. And that is one of the pieces of advice that you hear from a guru that is extremely valid. You need to be consistent. You need to work hard. You need to put in the effort. You need to do the things that are necessary. Quit wasting your time. Quit being distracted. Those are great things no matter what kind of business or marketing they're talking to you about. Those are great just principles to put into place in your business, okay? Now, there's a couple things I want you to think about, but obviously there's a difference between the eyeballs, the experience, but one of the things that comes out of the mouth of gurus often is, this is what works for me. And I want you to hear that clearly, that this is what works for me is not really positive for you. Now, is there maybe a backdrop or a lighting kit or something that works well? Okay, there are things that will work, but I'm saying tactics in and of themselves, if you have a guru that says, this is what's working for me, right? You have to take that into context, because if they're saying, this is what's working on my ad strategy, okay, maybe they're running $10,000 or $15,000 a day in their ads. Well, if you take that same tactic over a smaller audience, you may not have the same results. So I want you to think of, if they say this is what works for me, I'm not saying that it's all bad. I'm saying you need to have a question mark or an asterisk by that. If you hear this is what works for me from a guru, you need to find out if in comparison to what you do, what they do, if that's really going to work for you. Because it may not, and it may make you frustrated because you're doing the same things that they are. Running billboards may not be the best thing, but that's what they're doing. So if you try to do it, does that mean you're going to have the same level of success? Not necessarily, okay? So that's one thing. This works for me is an asterisk. Not all of it's bad advice, but you want to question it and see if that's actually applicable to you. The second thing, if they say, this is what worked for me when I was 100,000 followers. This is what worked for me when I was 200,000 followers. This is what worked for me when I was at your stage. That's valid advice. That can be really helpful. So I want to help you kind of clarify and see when you're listening to gurus and other people, like what is really actually helping you. Because if not, you need to weed through what is or isn't useful for you. And that's one tactic to do it. Now, another great way to combat the difference between you and the guru is that you need to focus first on your audience, okay? There's no work that can replace this work. There's nothing you can do that will replace doing this work because it makes all the difference from here on going forward. If you know the right audience that you're actually out there for, that you're trying to take care of, that you're trying to work with, you're trying to make a difference for, you're trying to change their life, then that is the audience you need to focus on, okay? You need to know the frustrations they're going through, the pains that they feel, just their day-to-day living. How does their life occur? Are they working full-time? Are they working like you got to learn and understand your core target audience. Because if you don't know who they are, how in the world are you ever going to talk to them in a way that's going to move them, change their world, right? The guru that has millions of followers has identified that audience, that community in a way that like, wow, somebody understands me, right? But they also can have a lot of social evidence of saying, well, there's a couple 100,000 people that feel the same way about that guy as I do. And that's great, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not useful to you to the same thing. So again, make sure that you are getting so laser focused on your audience so that you are not just like throwing out a message to everybody. How you speak to a woman versus a man is different. Even in a PC compliant world, you look at brands that are out there for women and men, they don't look, feel, and say the same things. They just don't, because they understand you have to talk to people differently. So again, know your audience. Do the work. I plead with you to do the work in your audience to understand them, know who they are, know what they're about. Call your customers, just find out more about your audience, okay? The second way that you can combat the difference between you and the guru is to focus on your message, okay? So now that you understand who you're talking to, your audience, your message has to be paramount. You have to know what to say that's going to get that person to take action, right? You can't just say like whatever you want or whatever comes out and hope that works for them. See, the magic of message is what goes on between the ears of your audience. If you know your audience and you know the conversations they're already having in their head of, man, I wish I could do this, or man, this is frustrating, or man, I've been trying to do this thing, and your product or service solves that frustration, that thing for them, and you understand the actual words they're using, then those are the words you need to put in your message, okay? So the message that you explain and put out there to the world makes a huge difference. And when you get your audience right, you get your message right, you can build a community. A community does not need to be big. Like a family is a small unit, right? And then you've got an extended family. Then you've got a lot, like generations of family, right? It can be lots of people if you look at it that way. But it starts with a core group that actually understands and follows what you're doing. So if you have a core group of 50,000 followers, 20,000 followers, then talk and be intimate with those people so that you can actually help them get where they want to be. And then you can build a community around it for the rest of the people that come and join in your words from there, right? Your product or service. Now, the last thing you can do that's a way to help you get to the status of a guru, the difference between you and them is that they have good relationships. If you make good relationships and you spread your network out there so that you can actually help people and then they can help you, people that are maybe in your same level, right? People that have the same amount of followers that you do but are complementary products to what you do. If you reach out to them, then you can help their audience, they can help your audience. And then there's a really good combination there. So those are 3 tactics that you can actually really use in your business. That you focus on your audience, you focus on your message, and you focus on getting some relationships that can really make a difference for you. But I'm not talking about the relationships that are the same thing you're selling. I'm talking about relationships that maybe are complementary, or somebody else in the industry that'll give you and give you that hand down and pull you up, because that's what happened to most of the gurus out there. There's someone out there that was a mentor or a helper to them that said, hey, I'll send an email out for you, or I'll do this thing for you, I'll get on that interview with you. And they reached down and pulled that person up, and then they started finding a lot of success that way. So those are 3 ways to do it, and this is way you can actually bridge the gap that's between the guru and you, and then that way you can complete a lot better marketing campaigns out there and do a lot better in your business with your product or service. Today's training is a lot of fun, and it's another small way to automate big.